All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about something that is a total game changer for financial modeling: automated machine learning, or AutoML. If you've ever been stuck in the weeds building predictive models and just wished there was a faster, smarter way, well, you are in exactly the right place. Does this sound familiar? I mean, you get it. You see how powerful machine learning can be for forecasting, for risk analysis, but the actual process of building and tuning and testing model after model after model, it's just a massive bottleneck, right? It's a story I hear all the time from folks in finance and accounting. But what if you could just hand off the most boring, repetitive parts of that job? Just imagine having an assistant who could test hundreds, even thousands of model variations for you and do it almost instantly. That, right there, is the core promise of AutoML. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with that core problem, the model building bottleneck. Then I'm going to give you a really simple way to think about AutoML. We'll look at real-world financial use cases, we'll check out the top tools, and I'll walk you through a clear 6-step pipeline. And we'll wrap up by covering the common traps to avoid, so you can hit the ground running. Okay, so let's dig into that core problem first. Building a great model often isn't about some high-level, brilliant strategy. So much of the time, it's about the slow, tedious, technical grunt work that stands between you and the actual insights you're trying to find. And here's the key thing to understand. AutoML automates the grunt work, not your judgment. We're talking about things like trying out dozens of different algorithms, tweaking all those tiny little settings called hyperparameters, running all the validation tests. It basically takes all the tedious mechanics off your plate so you can focus on the big picture. So to really make this click, let's use a simple analogy. This is honestly the best way I found to think about what AutoML is and, more importantly, how it actually fits into your daily workflow. First, let's just get the formal definition out of the way. AutoML is a process of automating the end-to-end tasks of applying machine learning to real-world problems. Okay, fine, but that's a little dry, isn't it? Let's make it way more intuitive. This right here is the perfect way to picture it. Think of AutoML as your new junior data scientist. It's incredibly fast, it's ridiculously patient, and it will never, ever get tired of running thousands of experiments to find what works. All that frees you up for the important, high-level strategic thinking. So let's be super clear about who does what here. The tool, it handles the model selection, the tuning, and the ranking. But you, the finance pro, you are still completely in charge. You define the business question, you use your deep domain knowledge to create the features, and most importantly, you interpret the results and apply your professional judgment. AutoML is a powerful tool, for sure, but you are still the pilot. Okay, so that's the theory. Let's get real. Where can you actually use this thing in your day-to-day work in finance and accounting? Where does it really shine? Well, the first huge category is forecasting, what we call regression problems. Think about predicting your monthly OPEX by cost center, or forecasting interest income. Maybe it's estimating warranty claims or the provision for credit losses. These are all classic FP&A and accounting tasks where you've got historical data and you just need to predict a future number. And then there's the other big bucket, classification. This is all about answering a yes or no question. Is this specific invoice going to be paid late? Is this journal entry high risk and worth a closer look from auditor? Is this particular customer about to churn? These are incredibly valuable questions that AutoML is just perfectly built to help you answer. All right, so maybe you're thinking, okay, this sounds amazing. Where do I even start? The next logical question is what tools are actually out there? So let's do a quick flyby of 3 of the leading platforms just so you know what your options are. Honestly, a lot of the time, this choice just comes down to your company's existing tech stack. If you're a Python person living in notebooks, the open source tool AWS AutoGluon is fantastic for just trying things out. If all your data lives in Google's BigQuery, well then Google Vertex AI is a supernatural fit. And for big enterprise teams that are all in on the Microsoft ecosystem, Power BI, Azure SQL, Azure AutoML just plugs right in. Now for the really actionable part. This is where the rubber meets the road. How do you actually go from a business question to a working deployed model? Here is a clear, repeatable, 6-step framework you can follow every time. As you can see, the process is pretty logical. You always start by clearly defining the problem you're trying to solve. Then you build the dataset from your systems, like your GL. Next comes feature engineering, and pay attention to that one because we're going to double click on it in a second. After that, you let the AutoML tool run, you evaluate its top models with a very critical eye, and finally, you deploy the winning model into your workflow. I really want to pause on step 3, feature engineering, because I'm telling you, this is the single most important step in this entire process. This is where you translate your business smarts into data the model can actually understand. Creating things like lagged values, rolling averages, or key financial ratios. This is where your expertise creates all the value. The machine absolutely cannot do this part for you. Now look, with any tool this powerful, there are always potential pitfalls. It's not magic, and using it responsibly means you gotta be aware of the common traps people fall into. So let's cover the big ones you need to watch out for. First, and this is a big one, do not blindly trust the top model. Yeah, high accuracy is great, but you have to make sure the model makes business sense. Second, never ever shortcut feature engineering. We just talked about why that's so critical. Third, watch out for something called data leakage, where information from the future accidentally contaminates your training data. It's sneaky and it'll make your model look way better than it actually is. And finally, don't forget governance. These models still need to be documented and monitored just like any other critical business process. You know, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The AI can give you answers, but the human, that's you. You provide the intuition, the context, the wisdom. And that's really the bottom line here. AutoML is not a replacement for your expertise. It's a productivity multiplier. It's a tool that lets you test way more ideas and get to solid, data-driven answers in a tiny fraction of the time it used to take. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. If you could shrink your model building time from weeks, maybe even months, down to just a few hours, what new, strategic, game-changing questions would you finally have the time to answer? That's the real power AutoML unlocks.